Hey guys, welcome to this video. This is Smoleny from Wolf Trader Futures, and I'm really excited to share with you a new feature that we have for all newsletter services. This is called the S&P Single Transit Clusters, and this is going to give you a specific insight into the market based upon transits that are correlated for that market. And so we're actually able to test this statistically using a chi-square analysis against a control group to get statistical power behind these. And what this does is this gives you an idea of positive events or negative events that are coming up in the market in the near future. So I've put together a little clip for you from my S&P newsletter service that I just put out. I just put out this video, but it's going to give you a brief background into how these single transit clusters work and how you can apply them to your trading. So without further ado, here's the video. I hope you enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, everybody. So now I'm going to talk to you about a very important new feature that I'm adding, and that is called the single transit clusters. So what this does is this looks at specific transits to see if they are clustering around an event. So sometimes when that happens, it can override larger term cycles or things that we're looking at, even the Fed's use in this case of 4th of July weekend. But now I'm going to be able to look at thousands of them. So before, just to go back as a reference, I looked at these clusters around this 4th of July 4th weekend, okay? And we had all of these independent events going on. And I did this manually because I kind of looked up and I said, well, what are some significant events that are important? Well, the first one is the eclipse, right? And we know that the market tends to go up into the eclipse and then it tends to go down after. The Venus station, the market likes it when Venus goes forward. This was a stationary direct pattern, and then it starts to go forward during this period. And during this period, it's 100% in the last 7 times. The Mercury midpoint, that's when the acceleration of Mercury tends to go forward, and that tends to be reversal points. And look, that came on the 29th. The seasonals, July the 4th, is a positive seasonal, so it tends to push markets forward. Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, positive, 100%. So you looked at all these efficiencies in here, and they are very high. Okay, this is very high. So the chances of the market wanting to try to go up during that holiday period was high, and it did. And it was strong enough to overcome the planetary speed index here. You see this here? So this is a very rare event, and usually these events, they have nothing to do with each other. Like the eclipse has nothing to do with the station. It has nothing to do with the Mercury midpoint. The seasonals have nothing to do with any of these. The Jupiter-Pluto is once every, it's every 13, 12 or 13 years. So we're really looking at things that just coincidentally happened, and they were all coincidentally statistically positive. So I think that's what happened last week with that July. It did, like I said, it temporarily overrode this planetary speed index, but all of this stuff will come to an end in a few days. So, it's possible that this was just a short-term jog up in the markets. But getting back to these single transit clusters, so this is really important because now I can look at transits that are clustering. So what are we going to look at? Well, I was able to look at a lot of things. First of all, I'm able to look at the midpoints of planets, which are very important because that's a concentrate. It's like a focal point. Okay, it's a focal point of energy between two planets. So I was able to look at the major and minor aspects. And the way that this works is this actually runs a statistical analysis using a chi-square analysis, using a control group, using minimum specifications of significance. These are statistically significant. I look at the coordinates, where it is in the sky, the day of the week. So does it like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday statistically? The day of the month, does it like the end of the month, the beginning of the month? Does it like the 17th of the month? Whatever it is, it will find it. And then finally, the direct stations here. So this is so important because when planets make stations, it tends to affect the markets. It's a very powerful effect. And so one of the problems with just using stations or retrogrades is, sometimes we look at that and we say, well, 3 planets are making stations or retrogrades. So, there's a clustering of events. So something's going to happen. So the market might reverse on that date. Well, that's kind of can be true in some cases, but we want to know the exact direction, right? So this will tell us the exact direction. So the only thing that I couldn't really do on this analysis, like universally, is to do holidays. So some holidays are fixed, like July 4th is fixed on July 4th, but some of them aren't, like Easter moves around, Thanksgiving moves around. So I'm still going to have to do that by hand, and that's a huge factor when we see those seasonal events coming in. But this really is going to give us a big advantage. So let's talk about how this has looked over the past few weeks. Okay, so first I'm just going to give a couple slides here of the past few weeks, and then I'm going to go forward into how the early part, the first 2 weeks of July look like. So this is the transits down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that there are different levels of criteria that I can go through. Um, I give a minimum percentage. So this is 85% or better that this has occurred. And then if the arrow is bold, it's 95%. Now, I don't always use these. Sometimes I'll use less. If I want to see more arrows, I'll use less. Obviously, if I did 75% minimum or 65, you'd see a ton of arrows down here, right? But this is looking at like 10,000 different transits, 10,000 different possibilities. And this one was updated on July the 2nd. Okay, so this is what happened looking back across the first eclipse. Okay, so this was in June. This was last June. So you see here, you're starting to see a cluster of arrows into here. So there's a bunch of transits clustering in here that are saying that this wants to be positive on the markets. Now, I'm giving you a really good example, but I did test this out of sample. In other words, I stopped the date early, right? So it couldn't see the future and it still produced these outcomes, okay? So this is a pretty good picture of how it actually looked. It did go up. So now notice, so sometimes these arrows will disappear and it's not like an exact turning point because we have so many of them and they can disagree, right? So in here they can disagree. But the day before here, the days before you did get a bunch of green arrows here to show this upside. Now, this is the eclipse here. So this was over the weekend here. Actually, this one was like on a Friday, so it went up. Now notice there were some green arrows here on the first day. So when they go up and they go down, that can tend to be a top, and that's what happened here. You can see that. And then they started to give these really hard down arrows into here. You see this like this? And then that's when we got that big sell-off. So when you use this together with the eclipse, obviously with the eclipse, we expected a topping pattern on the market, right? But in this case, it picked it up with, there's also clustering transits that showed from many different angles, the market didn't like this period into here. So that's the first example here across that eclipse. And again, this is just the S&P. I'm planning to do this on multiple symbols, and it depends on the symbol, but S&P, it's difficult to trade with the Fed, but different symbols are different for are difficult for different reasons. So like some of these currencies are just absolutely crazy. Like they go up, they go down, they go nuts. And this does a very good job of catching those single day turns. So for the currencies, this is going to be really good. And same thing for like gold and some of the metals that tend to be very choppy. And again, like each week, what I'm trying to do is just to kind of keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into this analysis to give us some more tools to look at to help us understand every perspective we can look at from the market to leave no stone unturned. And there's more we can go beyond this, but I think this is a big breakthrough here in terms of us being able to see these clustering transits. Now, this was the market in the recent days here from June 15th. This was the middle of June here. So you can see that it was still relatively positive, and you had more green arrows coming into here, and the market did go up, and it just kind of went up and went sideways. Notice these arrows did kind of disappear here, and it just kind of drifted sideways during that period. But then on the 19th, you started to see more of these arrows, and again, these are 95% if these arrows are bold. You got a bunch of these up patterns, right? And the market did go up. Okay, and then notice that these green arrows disappeared, and you started to see some red arrows start to appear here. It's a little bit choppy into here, but the market did start to stair step lower into there. Okay, so again, this is just information, and it can be wrong, of course. You're limited by statistical samples and whatnot, and different things occur at different rates. Like if you're looking at Mercury and the moon, you get, tons and tons of samples. But if you're looking at like a station, you only get like 7 or 8 samples across like a 10 or 12-year period. So it's not completely equal for all transits, but it does a pretty good job here. And notice here, now this is the one that I wanted to talk about because this is super important. So this is the week of July the 4th. So this is the holiday here. So now we did have the planetary speed index in a cell and Fed uses in a cell, but look at this. these are all of the positives coming in to that week, okay? So over the weekend, right away, this was already giving us some very positive numbers. And then on the 29th here, um, it still continued to see these positive arrows. There was that one red arrow there, but for the most part, this was positive, and the week continued to go up. So this picked up those cluster of positive transits on the S&P that we couldn't see off of just a general cycle, because these may or may not have anything to do with a general cycle like a solar cycle. Like I said, the lunar eclipse has nothing to do with the solar cycle or the cat file. You know, the Jupiter Pluto has nothing to do with that. The seasonal has nothing to do with that. So when we start to look at this, I think it just gives us another layer to say, hey, look, there's still a lot of positive energy here on this market. Maybe, maybe it's going to go up, or maybe we should stand aside and not short this. Even if the bigger pattern will end up being down for the short term, you can see that there is a cluster here on this market. So that's just something really important to look at. And even on that holiday print here, I actually showed that here. This was the actual Friday that the market was closed, but it did print on the futures. Notice that that red arrow came in and it did actually go down. It went down that day just for a little bit. So I really like this. I think this is going to give us another layer of insight, and I'm going to try to keep this in perspective with the big picture, but you guys are going to have access to this, and I'm going to probably update it every couple of weeks. I don't think it needs to be updated every week. It's pretty stable. And then again, I'm going to be adding these for all of the symbols. So for each newsletter service, if you're in metals, you'll have it for metals. If you're in currencies, you'll have it for currencies, whatever. So this is really going to give you some tools here to work with that I think are really going to help you pinpoint. And it pinpoints the day-to-day stuff. That's the beautiful thing about this, is that a lot of the other stuff that I give you is longer range trends and moves and Fed juice, but this is the first real one that we have here that is really pinpointing the transits that are clustering around each day. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing this play out in the markets. Hey guys, I'm back. What'd you think? I personally think those single transit clusters are really exciting. So if you want more information about it, you can head on over to our website, wolftraderfutures.com, and sign up for the free email list to get free email updates. We also have multiple ways to reach us around the web. We have a Facebook page, Wolf Trader Futures. We also have an Instagram, Wolf Trader Futures. There's 2 Twitter pages. The first one is Wolf Trader FUTU1, which is this one here. This is the free one. And then we also have the paid version, which is at Wolf Trader 1. This is for our gold members. And then, of course, the website here, wolftraderfutures.com. You can head on over there and you can get all the information about these new newsletters that we have. So the single transit clusters are going to be rolling out in the next couple of days. I already have it for the S&P, but I'm going to be adding it for the metals market, the energy market, the currency market, and the cryptocurrency market. So this is going to be coming out for all these markets. So if you're interested in it, you can head on over and sign up. There's a 7-day trial for each newsletter. They're $39 a month, and I really think you're going to enjoy this service. So I'll talk to you guys soon, and have a great night. Peace out.